Welcome to Mechs on Deck. Today we have something very different. Today, pro Fortnite player slash Twitch streamer Tfue had a new keyboard released for him. It's a custom mechanical keyboard. He's diving in to the custom mechanical keyboard market. We kind of wanted to shed some light about the board and kind of what the true value of it is and show you, hey, you don't have to spend $700 to get the exact board he has. You can actually spend quite a bit less.
Just a few dollars left.
Just a few.
Just a few. So quick shout out to our sponsors though. Our buddy Krelbit at switchmod.net. You can go over there, switchmod.net/mechs on deck. It'll be in the description. Go there for 4% off your lubing needs or any other items. He sells some springs. He's got some stickers. You can get some cool no-use stickers. Does not work on group buy items, but he still has GMK handle something. GMK looks like it was from a Handlebert. Looks like a toy from the 90s. But that's still going on. So I think it's about to hit MLQ, surprisingly. But so yeah, that's still going on for 4% off over there at switchmod.net/mechs on deck. And then our partner Zap Cables, which we'll have some stuff coming up with him soon. You can go to Zap Cables, get yourself a cable, a DIY cable kit, and build it with our video. Or he's released his schedule so that you can get yourself a fancy custom coiled, extra awesome, all the bells and whistles cable for your key set or matchy everything. So check out Zap Cables as well.
Yeah.
So real quick, we were going to do the part 2 of last week's episode today, but we decided that we wanted to go over this, and that argument can wait. I was out of town this past weekend, so we kind of wanted to take a little more time on that argument video because that could very well be a very long episode.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and we wanted to spend a little more time building our arguments there. So today we are talking about how to save you money.
Save that money. In the wise words of Lil Dicky, if you haven't heard that song, it's pretty funny. But no, and we just want to do just quick disclaimer before we get into anything. We're not hating on the board itself. We're not hating on the guy that built it. We think this is a great way to get into custom boards, but it is not a board that is $700, which is what it was advertised as. It's actually quite a bit less. So we're going to kind of go through some things and show you each piece that you can get. We're going to show you some things that weren't maybe done as well as they could have been done on the actual build itself. And then kind of some suggestions that maybe we would do differently and what our $700 board would be. And then just some things about how this affects the communities of mechanical keyboards in both the negative and some other things that are helping in the community. So yeah, I think we're going to go ahead.
Full disclaimer, I didn't know who Tfue was until this morning.
Yeah. So, neither of us are big Fortnite players.
I played a while ago for a few weeks and dropped out, but I don't really follow gaming that much when it comes to Twitch. So just full disclaimer, I have no bias towards anybody.
Yeah.
And outside of Overwatch, I'm pretty sure you do not have bias either.
No.
So.
Overwatch and CSGO, those are the only ones that I follow. I know who Tfue is just because he's like probably one of the biggest and one of the best Fortnite players out there. So it's a pretty big deal for him getting into the custom keyboard market. So I know he's got a big reach. We just want to set the record straight about his board and show you where and how you can get yours.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to
transition. Sorry.
So one thing I will say, I've put this together. This will be in the description. So this is the true cost of all of the parts. And as you can see, it's totaled up. It's got links to every different thing, and we're going to kind of go through these one by one. So if you do want to build this, you can use this as a guide to get all the different pieces. It'll link you directly to what you need. I think Chewy's going to go grab his 5-degree case real quick, because he actually has one that is not built. But the first thing we're going to kind of get into is the 5-degree case itself. So Chewy, you've got quite a bit of experience with this case. You want to go ahead and
I
talk about
do.
it?
The 5-degree is the first 60% board that I ever built. What switches? I built it with box whites. Box whites or box pale blues. Great board, great starter board, great price. So here it is. It's a cool board. It's pretty lightweight, but I mean it's aluminum, so it's beefy. I don't think I have any marks on it that I know of. So I mean, it stands the test of time. It's got a classic look, 5-degree angle, so it's not going to be harsh on your wrists, and just inexpensive. And what bothered me the most, and we'll get into this a lot more later, is that when you see a high price tag, and then you mention this case, that's kind of an oxymoron in this hobby. This is not what people will call high end. This is very much beginner slash getting into a little bit more into the customs. But before the Tfue came out, I would say that this is the kind of go-to intro to getting into custom mechanical keyboards. And so, like I said, it's a great case, and it's a fun piece of metal. Good build quality. Like you're not getting anything super duper fancy out of it, but comes with little blockers too. So if you wanted to try out Win keyless, or if you wanted to try out HHKB, or just make some unique, kind of make it your own, you can do that. And that not a lot of boards have blockers these days. So I don't know. I'm sure they still send them with them, but having that option is just such a unique thing that not a lot of boards have. So if you're, you don't have to go buy a Win keyless Tfue to try out Win keyless, or an HHKB Tfue to get an HHKB. So that's just something that's very unique. And $88. They do sometimes go for 80 on mass drop. So also kind of look at that. But lots of different color options. I got mine in silver. They actually did not have, this is probably over a year old.
Mm-hmm.
They did not have that many color options, but they've got green, you've got cayenne, I believe they had, but you've got dark blue now. Chocolate's always a good one. I see a lot of people with purple. My wife actually, her one of her boards, she has two, and I got her a frosted acrylic one that looks awesome, and it was a great board to build in, and she loves it. So like I've got experience with both. I've kind of forget that one's there, but forget that we have that one. She's been using the Tokyo 60 for a while, but so yeah, like it's a great beginner board. It's a great board if you're just going, I want a 60%. I don't want to spend a lot of money. I don't plan on being in this hobby, just all in. I just want a cool little custom mechanical keyboard that I can call my own. 5 degrees where I would sit. So
yeah, and if you want to go the full Tfue, cyan, just to prove, cyan case, still $88. That's the one that they used in the build. So you can get that $88, but you can branch out a little bit, get something a little bit different. If you want to go full RGB, getting the frosted acrylic would definitely let that RGB shine through. Personally, I like the dark green and the dark purple. A little bit flashy, but those are for the dark purple, but the dark green's real nice. But yeah, it's a great tray mount case. It's real easy to work with. It's not a ton going on. It's got great compatibility with different PCBs, which is going to kind of be where we go next. And that is the PCB that they used. It's a DZ60 RGB. It's just the standard ANSI PCB. It's got Kale hot swap switches already soldered in. You do not have to solder in those sockets. I know that was kind of a something that was brought up in the video, in the build video, was whether or not that was done. They are pre-done, so for $55, you can get the DZ60 PCB, which has per switch LEDs, which is really, really nice if you're looking for that RGB goodness. Um, Not a ton of flexibility as far as the layout, obviously, but if you're looking to build something quick, something easy, super easy to build these in, you can just pop the switches in. You don't have to really worry about a ton of stuff when you're going to build it. You don't have to worry about soldering. We've done a couple videos about PCBs, which you can look at and kind of get a little bit more in-depth look at differences between hot swap and non-hot swap, as well as PCBs as a whole. But this one it's a super good value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Especially like as a beginner. I mean, you're saving $50 of soldering equipment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a beginner, I just wish that whenever you and I had started, hot swap was a thing. I would have probably jumped on board. It took Osiris about a month of just DMs and trying to figure out what I wanted to do and all that stuff. Where if it was a hot swap, I'm like, yep, let's do it right now. Would have
Yep.
been next day. So, but moving on, what do we have next?
We've got the plate.
Plate. So polycarb plate. I don't have much experience other than typing on them. But it's a polycarb plate, inexpensive, lots of flex. So if you like a softer typing experience, go for the polycarb. You can, at that price range, you can also get aluminum or steel.
Yeah.
So if you want something a little more stiff, maybe add a little more weight to your board. I recommend stainless steel if you don't mind a more harsh bottom out. So I do like the stainless steel plates a lot. But all those plates, they fit with the DZ60 and the 5 degree. I almost said 55 degree. That'd be quite the type. But all those plates work. But so yeah, you do have some options. You can go brass, but that will double the price.
Yeah.
But
You actually, if you are getting this and you're getting the Tfue keycaps, one thing to note is you want to make sure that you get plate B. You do need that 2.25U left shift.
yes.
So
Yeah. And then next up we have, I want to say it's stabs.
Just regular old GMK screw-ins.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah, simple, easy. Everyone makes a big deal, and we make a big deal about it. Clipping and lubing them. Plenty of videos on the YouTubes on how to clip and lube your stabilizers to make them sound amazing and make them feel nice and buttery smooth. Super easy to do. You can grab yourself some dielectric grease or some super lube and do it in about 10 minutes. It's real simple. Here it's $13. This is more stabs than you would need. This is it's 4 2U and 1 6.25U. That's everything you would need, plus I believe one extra.
It's always good to have an extra.
Yeah.
So, yeah, stabs definitely need them. Well, you don't technically need them, but you're gonna have a bad time hitting that space bar.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, I would say you need them,
Yeah,
but
you need them. You definitely need them. But cheap.
But then moving on to switches, this is where it kind of, there's a lot of variance here. This is something that you can change based on what you like. You can change these out for any switch that you like. You don't have to go with the Heiko Royal switches that they used. But we will talk a little bit about these. We just did a video about box switches not too long ago. Chewy's going to do his very typical plug. Go ahead.
Oh, you want to know what a switch is? You want to know what it feels like? Say no more with a switch tester. Now you're not going to get the full experience of knowing exactly what it feels like, what it feels like typing, but you can knock a few out. You can take a few and go, you know what, I don't like that, or I really do like that. Then you know how to switch. Boom. Same website, novel keys, which you can actually coincidentally, get stabilizers from that website too. A lot of them are out of stock right now, but they do have more coming in July. But switch tester, you can get a switch tester. They're like 12 or 14 bucks for a 4 and 25 bucks for 12 switches. Get a switch tester. He used Haker Royal switches. I like Haker Royal switches. I think that he made a good decision in the switch that he got. They're fantastic switches. I have a Haker Royal True, which is just a heavier spring weight than the Haker Royal Clear that he used. So if you want something a little heavier, but great switch. Box switches are not dead. They're still great switches. But if you wanted to get something else, I know Novel Creams, they're doing great right now. Fancy ink switches, they're kind of all the hot buzz right now. You can get those soon. He has Zelios to try, but he does not sell Zelios at the moment. But he also has Trash Pandas. So if you want to get in on the trashy goodness of Trash Pandas, you do have to get another switch for that. But yeah, there's some great switches on Novel Keys, and you really can just try it out. But if you're looking to make the exact board, 70 switches, just get 70 switches, Royal Heiko clears. I forgot. I'm looking at the 38.50 shipping will probably be around with shipping, and after that it'll probably be around $40 to $41. Pretty typical, little on the high side. If you're wanting to save some money, I might recommend getting some Cherry MX Blacks if you like linear switches. That's going to save you a lot of money going forward. But
Yeah, you can really, there's like as we're showing here on the screen, there's tons of different switches you can get from Novel Keys. They have every kind of Kale switch you could ever want, from box thick click switches to speed switches to pro switches, mod switches. You can really go anywhere from $2 for 10 switches to $8-9 for 10 switches. It just depends on what you want to spend. I would recommend, if you've never tried different switches, maybe get some of these sample packs, Gatoron, Zeal, Cherry, the Kale one. You can really try out a variety of different switches, figure out what you like before you make the dive into building your own board, because there's some really good ones. I know people that swear by Gatoron yellow switches. They love them. The creams are doing really, really well. Everyone loves the cream. You throw a little bit of 3204 or some 205 grade 0 in there, and really.
Which you could pick up at switchmod.net/Mechs on deck.
But yeah, and one thing that he did, in his build to the Heiko Royal, he spring swapped them. That's not something you necessarily have to do. He took them from an 85 gram bottom out to a 65 gram spring, so he lessened it a little bit. That's not something you have to do. If you want it to be a little bit lighter switch, you can get something different. There are the regular Heiko switches as well that you can get. And they have violets as well, which is a really good switch. So there's a bunch of different options. I'd recommend trying it out. Maybe get yourself a switch tester. They have on here, you can buy switch testers. You can customize them, put as many as you'd like. It's a good time. Definitely recommend picking up a switch tester, at least picking up a variety of different switches before you make the plunge. If you're coming from Cherry and you still want to stay Cherry, they do have those available as well. You can get your reds, your blacks, your browns. You can get speed silvers, as well as they have the silence as well. Excuse me. So there's tons of different stuff to get. Next thing, as far as what personally I would never purchase these. I'm not a big fan of this colorway or of these keycaps themselves, but you can get the Tfue Miami PBT keycap set, $49 on Amazon, free shipping. They only have 3 in stock, so you gotta act quick.
Go get them now.
But you can definitely get these. They're easy to get.
And you can go. They actually have a lot of different color. as
Yeah.
well, so you're not kind of stuck on this pink and blue tie. How they're not made, they don't have are not known for the highest quality of keycaps, but they do have almost unlimited color options. Sorry, my dog was freaked out, so he's now sniffing the microphone. But yeah, so you can get a lot of different color options, and especially stuff that can match that fit 5-degree case. Um, it just, you know, like I said, I wouldn't personally recommend them. I think you can. I think you can and should spend a little more money and get some more quality, higher quality keycaps, but to each their own. So I would recommend, if I'm making a personal recommendation, spend $50 more, get yourself an Enjoy PBT keycap set, um, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah, you can, as you can see now, I'm browsing around on kbdfans.com. They have tons of different keycap sets. If you want to try to consolidate where you're buying everything from, you could even get switches from here. You can get your keycaps from here. They have tons of different options. Luckily, if you're building the Tfue board, you can get just a standard set, and it's gonna fit. There's no specialty keys on just a standard 60%, so you don't have to worry about a short right shift or a split backspace or anything. Just want to make sure you stay away from these ones that say compatible with HHKB or the EC ones, electrostatic capacity. Those are not going to work with your
Cherry style switches.
With your cherry switches. Yeah, those are only going to work with HHKB, the Topra switches, excuse me.
And if you are confused about that, hit us up on Discord. Link's going to be below. If you're interested in looking for some keycaps and you just want to simply check compatibility, one of us or one of our mods or most people on our Discord will answer fairly quickly. They'll quickly check for you. It won't be that hard. And so if you're worried about, compatibility issues, we've had people asking our Discord before about compatibility. We absolutely do not mind answering that for you.
Yep. Yeah, and so there's tons of different options out there. If you want another good site you can get on, if you want something a little bit nicer, you can go to Originative. Pull that up here. They have, if you're really
drop some money.
If you're really looking to spend some money, you can get on here. If you really want the full Miami style and you want a keycap set that's a little bit nicer and you're okay with trying a different profile, maybe you want to try some DSA Miami, you can get the real deal. It's $169. It's expensive, but you can say I one up Tfue a little bit with my keycap set.
That's hard to look at.
But yeah,
but
there's tons of options on here.
It's a bright colorway, not for me, but there's some great keycap sets on there. I know they have, like, if you want to even go really baller and just throw 90% of your money towards something, SA Hyperfuse has been sitting there for a long time. $260.
$260 for SA Hyperfuse. It's a great looking set.
Straight to the top of Reddit, guaranteed.
It's a great looking set. If it was like $200, I'd probably buy it, but $260 is a lot. Huge compatibility though. If you got this set, you would be switch from any keyboard, you'd be set for a while. It's going to handle compatibility for a long haul. And that's the other thing about getting a key set that's a little bit more expensive is it'll come with some additional keycaps. So if you maybe down the line you move to something like a 65% or you get an HHKB or you want to play around with some different layouts, you'll have the ability to still use your fancy keycap set on that new keyboard. Whereas with like the Tfue set, if you move to 65%, you're not going to have the compatibility there. You're going to have to kind of figure something out for those.
Yeah.
And then next we're getting into some of the smaller things you don't really necessarily need, but does help out with the overall noise level of the keyboard. Mm-hmm. And that's the foam that he put in the actual keyboard.
Yeah. So there's two different types of foam. There's case foam, which, if you don't know, really quick, it goes without any foam. 99% of the time, it will go plate. Switches go into the plate. and then the plate is attached to the PCB, typically by the switches. The switches will snap in place, and then you solder or hot swap, push in the switches into the PCB. So plate, PCB, rest of the case. And so foam goes in between the PCB and the case. And I actually have some foam on one of my boards, and it does help kind of dampen that sound. It makes it a little thockier, a little deeper. It just helps eliminate some of that sound, some of that kind of pingy sound you might hear. It is a metal case. You are going to be pressing stuff against metal. So it'll just help a lot with that echo that you might get that could be undesirable. And then you have PC or plate foam, which goes in between the plate and the PCB. And that's just another way of helping dampen. Sometimes I know on Eric's Orange 75, there's like no room for anything. So if you wind up with a case that just is using every inch of space possible, so that might be a better option for you. So to get the kind of the plate foam that helps dampen that sound and kind of help, and that will also kind of cushion a little bit, not a whole lot, but it'll cushion some to some extent your key presses as well. So that's just these are things you absolutely don't need. This is very much it's very cheap, and that's the good thing. And so if you wanted to try it, by
Yeah,
all means go try it.
you're looking at
But
$10 for
yeah.
each, so $20 plus shipping. You know, it's if you are worried about having a board that's super silent, it's worth it to try it. If not, I'm sure you could throw it up on Mech Market. It'd probably be gone pretty quick, and you maybe
Yeah.
lose $2-3. Um, so it's nice to have. It doesn't hurt to put it in there, but it definitely does help with the sound a little bit. Um, and then the last couple things we wanted to touch on, those custom keycaps that he had made that said code Tfue on them, and then the custom escape key and the enter key. You can actually get those made for yourself for pretty cheap. So this website, Max Keyboard, and it's linked in that initial file I told you about, that Google Doc. You can select which keycap size you want. So if you want to do the space bar, it's going to be a 6.25 space bar. Then you can select the cap color. So let's say we wanted to do navy blue like he did. You can actually upload your own file. So you can upload the file that you want, get it made, $11. It's pretty inexpensive. Plus, you can do the escape key. You can get it made whatever you want. Not something you have to do, but if you wanted to fully make your own version and wanted to get those custom keycaps, you could. Pretty inexpensive. Definitely worth it if you're looking to go full Tfue.
Yeah, and it's something else that's cool that
Yeah.
you can further custom. We're all about customizing in our community. So yeah, why not have a little custom novelty key for your set?
Next, we're going to take a trip on over to our partners over at Zap Cables. You can use our video that we made about a month and a half ago now and make your own cable. They have everything available for you. You can do your own detachable, so you can get the aviator disconnect thing like Tfue has in his. You can go and find all the different colors and get one that matches your keycap set perfectly. Like I said, we put together a video about this that kind of walks you through step by step on how to make the cable. We didn't actually do a detachable cable, we just did a regular one, which, to be honest, you can do the same pretty easily. And then if you did want to do the coils, you can hit us up and we can see about getting some info out to you on how to do your own coils, but that is adding a little bit more to it. So if you wanted to do the exact coiled disconnect cable, you might want to look at getting one made by Zap Cables, which, as Chewy said earlier, they're opening up their schedules. I was looking at it earlier. It looks like next Monday, which I believe is actually the 22nd. They're opening up commissions for cables. They're pretty inexpensive right here. It's $11.50 just for the base kit. But as you add different things, you can spend $30-$40 if you want cable.
Yeah.
So it's not too hard. Chewy's made a couple cables now, haven't you?
I have made 4
4 cables.
4
Nice.
cables in completion that are working. Not the first time working. Actually, the one we made for the video worked on the first time.
It did. Yours did. Mine didn't.
The
But we figured it out.
the other 3 did not work immediately, but trial and error. But yeah,
It's definitely one
check
of
out that
those things.
video.
As you
It's
do it more, it gets easier and easier.
absolutely
So I will say, be gentle with the paracord.
very gentle. Does not take that much effort.
We tried way too hard and made it significantly harder on ourselves than we needed to. But yeah, we're gonna Oh wait.
Yeah, we don't have the link for it, but Lubing Springs.
Oh
You
yeah.
can actually get Lubing Springs from switchmod.net.
Switchmod.net.
That's where you can get lube, 3203, 3204, grade 205. Solid lube. If you're looking for tactiles, recommend 3203. 3204 if you want a little more creamy, but don't care about losing a little bit of tactile. If you want linears, 3204, 205. Definitely get those. Springs you can get from a lot of different websites have springs. We'll put a link up. I know like Sprit, they'll have some. They sometimes have longer shipping times, but my mechanicalkeyboard.com will have some springs as well. So, and those are anywhere between $8 and $10 for springs. But that's why I would suggest getting a switch tester, because if you don't want to have to deal with swapping out springs, you might just find a switch you might like more.
Straight up, yeah.
Straight up. So
yeah, it's definitely worth it to try some switches, because like you said, you might not want to even change the springs. It doesn't make the switch better for a lot of people. There's some people who just like the switch as it is. So yeah. So as you can see, we're back on the kind of the price list. We'll have this linked in the description, so you can go on, you can click all the links, figure out if you want to get this board. You can use all these to build it exactly, and then I'll add in the one for the lube and the springs as well, just so you can kind of build that all out. But you can see, not $700, $357.50 plus or minus some tax and shipping. So you're looking at getting out under $400 for all of the pieces to put this guy together. But we're going to go ahead and move on over. We're going to talk a little bit more about the build itself.
Yeah, the build. Oh, transition. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
So, as far as builds go, this was not optimal.
No, I mean, there were some things.
It was suboptimal, and there are things that could be improved upon.
Mm-hmm. Not awful, not the worst. I can say I've had a couple builds that were of lower grade than this. There was a build that I put a switch in the wrong. I soldered it in wrong, and then had to unsolder it with. I had to tear apart a guitar cable to unsolder it.
I remember that day.
But yeah, so I mean, just a couple little things that happened in the build. You know, I watched the entire build stream pretty much, just because I wanted to see kind of how we put it together. You know, someone's offering building services. I want to see kind of what they're doing. I just want to see what's going on with the community, see if it's someone we want to throw some support to, maybe have them come on the show. Couple things. This is kind of one of those things with a hot swap board. You never want to do this. You never want to put the PCB in. You never want to screw it down before you have the switches in the sockets.
Yep.
Because what's going to happen is, if you put too much pressure on those switches when you're pushing them in, it's going to pop those sockets right out. You know, it can happen even if you're not putting a ton of pressure. If a switch pin gets lined up wrong, which I believe even in his stream, one of the keys, I believe, was like the N key or something, one of the pins got bent when he pushed it in. It happens. It's better to put the PCB and the plate together first with the switches in on a flat surface. Maybe get something that's a little bit soft. If you have a little bit of like foam padding that comes in one of the shipping boxes, put it on there, so that way you can get some pressure on those socket switches, so you can make sure everything's in there nice and tight.
Yeah, absolutely. I've popped a few. I have a couple different hot swap boards that I've swapped out a bunch, and it happens. I mean, it's an easy fix. It's a very easy fix. So if it does happen, uh, you know, don't stress it. The board's not ruined, but there are ways to prevent it, which are laying it flat, like Osiris said. So just make sure you're putting it down, and that will prevent. It will decrease your chance of popping a kale socket by like 80%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something that is hard. It's not something that's easy to do, is mess that up. But if you are buying a hot swap board because you don't own a soldering gun and you want to do that, it requires a soldering gun to fix. So definitely be careful. Moving on, we noticed that he put the plate foam in the wrong position. So like I said earlier, you want to put the plate, then the plate foam, and then the PCB. So what that does is it sandwiches the foam where it's putting pressure, or it's using its foamy goodness, pressing that against the plate to absorb vibration and against the PCB to absorb vibration for your switches. And what he did is he put the plate foam on top of the plate and then putting the switches in. And what that does two things. One, you're not getting any absorption from the PCB. So that bottom part of the switch is not going to be having as much absorption, and that's where a lot of the pressure is going to be, is on the PCB. And two, it does not secure that foam in place. And so it's just it's a relative with a hot swap board. That's a very simple fix.
Yeah.
You just have to pop the switches out. I mean, it's tedious. It'll take 15, 20 minutes, but you just swap it out. So just make sure you're putting the foam there, because that will, you will lose the what you're trying to gain from putting it there. You will not get that.
Yeah.
So
The other piece about that is, with the switches that he used, the clear switches, those are not PCB mount switches. They are plate mounted switches. So they need the plate in order to be able to be secured. So by putting it in the foam, you're securing those switches to foam. So basically the pins themselves are the only thing that is holding those switches in. So like if you were to travel with that board, like if he does ship it out to Tfue, chances are good that some of those switches are going to fall out in shipping, just based on the fact that they're not secured really to the plate. And that's another thing about with hot swap boards, is sometimes you do want to use switches that are PCB mount, just so you can have that extra security there. You can still do that with the foam and everything. It doesn't impede on it at all. But definitely want to make sure that you have that plate on top and that it is coming in direct contact with the switches, so that way they are secured to that plate, because it keeps everything together. Because basically what's happening is, with the foam and the plate, if those switches come up, like say for whatever reason they all get shook out and all the switches are off, that plate's just going to go crazy. It's just going to fall off as well.
You can scratch the case. It can damage the PCB. It can damage the keycaps if those are shipped. Very quick side note: if you're ever shipping a board, take the keycaps off.
Absolutely. Put them in a bag. They come in a bag or in a
just throw them in a bag. You could break a stem. It happens. And then I guess one thing to tack onto that: if you are using non PCB mount switches and you want to use plate foam, I would honestly just recommend using case foam, because that adding that pressure might, if you're soldering, it really doesn't matter. Because they're going to be welded in there tight. It might take a little extra pressure to make sure that they're sitting flush. It'll probably be a little bit more work for you. But if you're doing a hot swap board with a plate mount switch without those two little pins on the side, I would recommend just going ahead and getting a piece of foam for the case foam instead of the plate foam.
Yeah. You like you said, the pressure there could pop the switches out, which you saw a couple times. The switches did come out in the stream. Another thing that he talked about a little bit was kind of the difference between O-rings and lubing the switches. Just wanted to clear that up a little bit. As someone who used O-rings for a long time, I actually just recently stopped using O-rings on my switches. The benefit of putting an O-ring on your keycaps, or because you're actually putting it on the keycap, you're not putting it on the switch, is to lessen the harshness of the bottom out of the switch. It shortens the travel distance of the switch overall, so it makes it to where when it's bottoming out against the O-ring itself rather than the bottom of the switch. It's not reaching the max travel distance of the switch. So it helps if you're someone who presses down like extremely hard and you're getting finger fatigue from it. That can help cushion it a little bit and reduce that travel time. It can help if you're, I mean, they say it can help, but if you're like a super competitive gamer and you want the fastest switch of all time, you can put those on there. It'll make it seem faster because you're not pushing the switch down as much. So whereas lubing, what lubing does, which you can go back and watch our video with Quakums from Top Clack that we did a couple weeks ago where we went in depth with this, but it really is there just to kind of clean up some of the variances in switches. It makes the switch smoother, makes it feel overall better in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've used O-rings. They're great, but those are two very different things that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you want anything else?
No, you're good.
Okay, so next thing, switch alignment. So you'll see this happen often, especially with plate-mounted switches. Is the switches will be kind of off; they'll be a little off-centered. So what I'm saying is, and I'll call myself out because this is something that drives me crazy all day long. But I actually on my nice little board here, if you notice, my enter key is slightly uneven. You can notice because it sticks out a little more down here where the backspace key sticks up. It is an easy fix. It is an easy thing to prevent. I have just not physically gone and done it yet because I have some other plans for this board. But it is an easy thing to prevent because but that's because I'm using Holy Jesus switches, which don't have the pens to hold them in place exactly where they're supposed to go. And when you have plates that are supposed to support multiple layouts, sometimes those are going to have a longer cut. So most of the time, switches are just going to go in their own predetermined spot. Where if you want to have something with a little bit more layout flexibility, those cuts are going to be bigger. So there's going to be room for some wiggle room. And so when you're putting them in, whether you're soldering them or hot swap, there's potential for it to wiggle or fall out of place. It's a simple fix. When you're building it, just take either like, if you have like an old gift card or something, snap that in half and just put them in, or a piece of paper and just line those up between the keys, and that will help kind of even that out. And then once you have that nice and evened out, you can turn over and press it all the way in or solder it, whatever you want to do. But we definitely noticed that there's some switches that were unaligned, most likely because of the foam. I feel like a lot of these switches, or a lot of the issues that we did notice, was probably due to the foam misplacement. But yeah, just make sure that's going to make it look real clean. You don't, if most people are going to try and take pride in their work, and I like to make sure I have a good board, and that's why I'm calling myself on it, because I know I can fix it. I know, it's just something. I think I built this board late, and I was just like, whatever, just throw this in. I try as hard as I could, but it's an easy fix. So just make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're keeping it nice and tidy.
Yeah, and then just we noticed Krytox 105. It's a great lube for springs. Not typically used very often for the entire switch itself. You can, we would recommend maybe using something like a 3203 or maybe even 3204, depending on what you're trying to get out of the switch. But that kind of goes back to our lubing video with Quakums. You can check that out. We can go into the differences between these lubes. Krytox 105 GP it's a very thin lube. It's an oil, so it's very light. It's not going to do a ton as far as the actual switch itself, but it will really help with the springs, keeping that ping down.
Yeah.
removing the crunch of those springs. So,
Yeah. So, but and the last thing we had mentioned, or we're going to kind of talk about, we talked about a little bit already, just plate mounted switches. You know, it stinks that there are some really, really, really good switches that are plate mounted, because if you've used PCB mount switches with the 5 pins, you'll know that it just looks super clean and looks super nice. And when, especially with hot swap, that can be goofy on the board, especially like I use split backspace. And so I have a hot swap in my TX60 right now, my other TX60. And I use split backspace, but almost all uh, plates will have option for either a normal backspace or split backspace. And so whenever you're putting those in, or even with a hot swap, there's a lot of wiggle. And there's a lot of, you can get some wiggle, which is honestly the reason I wanted to solder this board, because I just couldn't stand that my tilde key was wiggling a lot. So just, there's not really a perfect way to do it, but I mean, I highly, highly recommend Zelio switches. Those are PCB mount. Super highly recommend novelty cream switches. These new the ink switches as well. So definitely some good options out there if you want to have that kind of ease of just popping. It takes a little bit more pressure to push it in, which is definitely why I recommend putting that PCB on a flat surface. But it's a nice easy press, and then once you get it in, it's going to be straight.
So this is what he's talking about. The 2 pins. That's the difference between a PCB mount. Plate mount switches do not have those 2 clear pins that you're seeing. So this is actually a Xylent, one of the Zelio or one of the Zeal switches. But yeah, so you can see that those really help in lining it up, making sure it's good. Another thing is if you're traveling with a board, if it's a hot swap and it's plate mount, just the natural vibrations of a plane or a car might pop some switches out. So you got to be aware of that too if you're taking it somewhere. Yeah, so I think next we're going to kind of get into what we would do differently. And I think the first thing is we kind of want to talk about what we would do if we were actually going to spend $700 on a keyboard. So just kind of some options that might be out there you might be able to get on Mech Market, or maybe you might still be able to get new from some vendors. But yeah, if you want to roll through some of the different options.
Yeah, so in Mech Market is going to be helpful. Now, we have seen a steep rise in prices on Mech Market, but some of the cases, a lot of the mid-tier cases have not fallen on that sword yet. You've got your TX60s, a lot of the TX boards, M65A, M60A, QXPs. Those are all going to be in the 400, 500 range. Brutal 60. We haven't seen them that much. They are in group buy, but those are going to be probably 250 to 400 and that kind of range. That's a big range, but so you see a lot of these kind of mid to high tier boards. And we're probably going to see a wave of Fiels coming soon. So if you really like the look of the 5 degree, the Fiel has a lot of similar design features. So, be on the lookout for that. Those will probably go for in that price range. So there's a lot of stuff you can get on Mech Market. Now, once again, that's not going to be a guarantee. You have to run into the risk of you do have to buy from someone. So we have an episode on Mech Market. I would go check that out before you hop into Mech Market. Once again, you can hop on Discord, ask us, hey, do you think this is legit? Do you think this is a good deal? We'll happily answer you there. But a lot of these boards that are in the $300 to $500 price range are great, and highly recommend. Nothing wrong with what he got, but if you're wanting to go up $700, these are some boards that I would definitely say, if you want to spend $700, let's spend $700 and let's get you a TX60 with some fancy caps, some awesome switches, and still probably have a little money left.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different things you can get for that $700 price point. TX60, we both have TX60s. Chewy has a couple. They're fantastic boards. I think I paid like $450 for mine, and then switches and everything. It's around that 700 price point, and that's like spending a lot on other things that go into it. So $700 is that is an intense price point to start out at. There's quite a bit you can get for $700.
Yeah.
So because a lot of times when you're looking on Mech Market, you may be able to find a board that's like exactly what you want out of the board, already built, and you just have to buy caps for it. And you can go get that keycap set, that tie house set for $50, or something off of KBD Fans, or
or even Mech Market.
Mech Market,
Mech Market, they'll have keycap sets.
So, and then a couple other options from KBD Fans. They do have some other options that I would consider would be a little bit nicer than the 5 degree. The KBD 67, you can get that with the steel plate, or you can even get with a brass plate if you want to get something that's going to be really, really nice. It's a fantastic board. It is, instead of being tray mount, so tray mount is where it basically screws into the PCB, whereas the KBD 67, I think it's like bottom mount, I believe, I think is what it just mounts into the bottom of the case.
90% sure.
So it actually screws into the case on the edges of the bottom of the case rather than throughout the middle of it. So it's just it's a different feel. It makes it, if you were to have like a PC polycarbonate plate, it would be super flexible. Obviously with a brass plate, it's not going to be as flexible, but there is some variance in there. I would say something that's a bottom or a top mount plate is going to be considered a little bit nicer as well. It's a little bit more premium of a build additive. And the next is,
it's going to be a little more even.
Yeah.
Sometimes on those bottom mount or tray mount, I should say, it gets, some of them are uneven. So when it comes to like pressing down, you could definitely feel it on a polycarb. If you're like pressing down hard, there'll be spots that are harder versus soft. So
yeah. And then the next is it's the Tfue. It's kind of the case that killed the 5 degree, some people would say. I know Chewy has tons of experience with the Tfue. He has a wind keyless Tfue, which is probably my favorite version of the Tfue and his favorite version of the Tfue. They have 3 different versions. They have a regular, the wind keyless, and the HHKB. Wind keyless and HHKB have an integrated plate, so it's all going to be built in, which is really awesome. You don't have to worry about that expense or having to fiddle around with a plate. You just put it all there, put it all together in one. The regular Tfue is still going to be tray mount like the 5 degree.
Yeah, Tfue, it's a great board. If you get the Tfue wind keyless or the Tfue HHKB, the other thing too is you can't get those cases by themselves. You have to get them with a PCB. So for $170, all you need is switches and caps. And stabilizers, which if I remember correctly, they'll send you stabilizers, but I would recommend getting GMK stabilizers. It's such a solid board. And it is going to be a little bit different typing on, because it's going to be that integrated, going to be very harsh. It's going to be very sturdy. So if you're looking for something like polycarb, where it has a lot of flex, this is the exact opposite. It's going to be very rigid and very hard to type on. So, but for the price, if you go, hey, I want to get $700, you can look at that and get a Tfue with, maybe you want to buy some Holy Pandas, which are, close to $1 switch. That's $70 plus the 170, so 240, and then 150 for, you can get a GMK set for 200 on originative. You can get one of the higher end ones, and you're spending almost half, a little over half of what that you would spend on that 700. So there's some great options that you don't have to spend the $700.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next thing is, if you want to get some nicer keycaps, something where they always have caps in stock, originaveco.com, they always have stuff in stock. Just a couple sets that we both like. Tokyo Nights. There's some other that's a GMK set. There's some other GMK sets on there, like GMK Keyboard and Co. If you're looking for something real colorful, that's more of like a mint colorway. They have some JTK sets that are super colorful, like both Angel and Devil, which are kind of inverses of each other. And then, like we showed earlier, DSA Miami. If you want that real Miami look and you want to one up Tfue, you can get some DSA Miami. But yeah,
Yeah, and then also KBD fans, the Enjoy PBT.
absolutely.
Those keycaps, tried and true. It's PBT, so it's going to be a slightly different feel to them. But actually, right now on the background, there's some PBT caps. It was Enjoy PBT 9009. So those keycaps, also great keycaps. Those sets have also a whole lot of compatibility, and at a price point of about $100, like that's a fantastic price point
Absolutely.
for what you get. And so just something to look at. Some people will spend a lot of money on keycaps, but outside of that, $100 for that, you're set.
Yeah. And the next couple of things, we've talked about these already, so I'll just kind of mention them a little bit. Things we would do differently. We'd probably lube the switches with 3203 rather than 105 GP as far as for the actual switch itself. We'd probably still use 105 on the springs, but the actual switch itself, we'd use 3203, and then which you can get at switchmod.net/Mechs on deck. And then, like we said, we'd use a switch that had PCB mount legs for added stability, just to make sure that nothing moved around. That's a little bit further in there, a little bit more sturdy.
It's good to be sturdy. So moving on, we had a long discussion about this on our Discord, but we do not think here at Mechs on Deck, both of us do not think that advertising this board that we priced out for you early in the episode at $357 roughly, we'll call it with shipping around the world and all that, we'll call it $400. And that's if you wanted to get cable and the custom keycaps and all that stuff. Call it around $400, claiming it is a $700 case or $700 keyboard. And so that's not amazing. We just talked recently about an episode about things that can kind of help move the community further, things that have helped move the community further. And it makes it seem as if the barrier to entry or the price point of what you would need to spend just to get into the community being really high. If I am a newcomer and I want to try these custom keyboards, and then you see $700, it's like I could buy a low to mid-range gaming PC for $700. Like, I don't want to do that just for a keyboard, when that's not the case at all. You can cut out half of this stuff and get a great keyboard. You can get for $700, you can get 6 Tada 68s.
Yeah, that was my first board. I still, right now, because I'm waiting to build my Orange 75, I'm using a Tada 68 at work. It's a $100 keyboard. Now I've put a little bit more effort into it since then, but it's like, at the end of the day, even with a metal case, it's like $200 maybe.
$200, yeah.
Like,
metal case plus switches is $200.
The biggest reason why we want to make this video is we want to show, hey, the barrier to entry, because this is not a hard build. This is a super easy build. It's not $700. It's not even $350. It could be $100 with a Tada 68. You get a plastic case, great board, super easy to build, great thing to start out at. Or you could build this board yourself for $350. Get every little piece that Tfue has, build it exactly the way that he has it for half the price of what it was supposedly listed at. Now, I understand there's things there like the builder's time and stuff involved, but even then, that's a lot of money for time. This is a relatively easy build when you consider like other things. There's no soldering involved. It's just pushing switches into the plate. If you're gonna lube your own switches, there is some time involved in there. But overall, $350, you can build this board yourself no problem. If you don't want to build it and you want someone else to build it, we can build it for you. Hit us up on Discord. We'll build it for you. We won't charge you an additional twice the price. We'll probably do it for free, in all honesty, for the shipping.
It's most people know there are I'll go there. That's too much. There are people in this community that build keyboards basically for a living. Build keyboards for a living that do not charge that much. I'm going to shout out real quick. I'm going to shout out Anthony001 or 001 Anthony. I'm not going to throw his price. I'm not going to throw his prices out because that's his information to give. But I will say that in a generalization, I had a board that was built by him around the time I started. He built me a KBD 75, which is a bigger build, meaning more time. Now, he did not lube the switches, but I spent under half of that. I spent under $100 to have him build me that board. And that is someone who's built hundreds of boards. Now, I don't know this person. I don't know if he's the greatest keyboard builder in the entire world, but after watching the video, I can tell you that he has made mistakes. And if you're spending $200, that's a mistake. If you make even if I'm paying someone, if I'm spending, sorry, 300. If I'm spending $300, that thing better be making me type 100 words per minute right out of the box.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to get 85.
Yeah. And I mean, if you even look at it like, someone who's very prominent in the community, Nathan Kim doesn't even charge $300 for a build.
I don't even think he charges 100.
I mean, I'm not sure what his prices are anymore. I know they were less than $300 last time that he took commissions. But it really makes a simple build seem too daunting. It's overpriced. If you want to get your board built by someone who's, honed in the craft, knows what they're doing, like I said, you can hit us up. We can build it for you. You can hit up Anthony. You can hit up Nathan. Heck, even KBD Fans has assembly services on their website.
Yep.
Like, you can get the board just built by them and have it shipped to you already built. And then all you have to do is just add caps. So $300 is a lot for a build fee. It's too much.
And I hope we don't see that as a common occurrence.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people such as Nathan Kim are ever going to get that far. I hope for the sake of the community they don't, but that's not good for the community.
No, I could understand maybe building charging a $300 fee if it was something that you took in a lot of risk by building. Like, say you were building a super vintage board and they wanted you to do all this crazy stuff to it.
Yeah.
But not for something that is simple, run of the mill. Buy it on KBD Fans. It's here next week. You can put it together.
Yeah, something he does in an hour.
Yeah.
So, it just, I don't know. The last thing, and we have a video coming out soon about it. For a hot swap, that's a very simple build. It's as simple as if you can build a PC, you can build a hot swap. If you can build Legos, you can put in a hot swap. Maybe this sounds rude. If you can put your key in the ignition, you can build a hot swap board. Like, it's that easy. It's very, very easy. You just have to take the correct steps. I'm going to be releasing a video doing a very just thorough walkthrough of how to build a hot swap board. And so if you decide you want to build this exact board with a hot swap socket, you can do it too. But it does make it seem like this daunting, I have to spend $200 to build a keyboard. No, you absolutely don't. You could spend $200 on an extremely nice soldering iron, great solder, and a desk to solder it on, and be able to do it over and over and over. But you don't need to spend that money on that kind of service when it's something very simple like this. Now, I can understand if you go, I really want this board, but I don't want to spend solder and I'm worried about messing it up, then yeah, I'm not at all shaming the idea of having somebody else build it for you. If you want it built, you want it built perfectly, send it to somebody else because you might not be worried about it or you don't want to spend money on soldering. I get that. I totally get that. But don't spend, but just know that you shouldn't be spending that much money. I would say for a 60% board, somewhere in the realm of like $40 to $80 is a decent price.
Yeah, I mean, even up to 100 if it's someone that you
Yeah.
want to have like stream it or something and you want to see it be built. But yeah, it's just it's too much. 300 bucks, too much. But
That being said, if you want to pay us $300, we'll happily take your money and build it.
Yeah, right.
You know what?
No.
I will kiss it and tuck it into bed for you.
Yeah, we'll hand deliver it to you. We'll drive out there and bring it to you. No, but enough about what's kind of bad. Let's talk about some other things that have been happening in the last couple of weeks that are good for the community, that are really pushing it forward. Random Frank P released a video going through different mechanical keyboards, showing off some different notable people in the community, showing off their custom keyboards and kind of going in depth with it. And he basically said it's going to be a series going forward if it does well. It seems like it's gone well, and hopefully it does go forward. I know you've really enjoyed the video, Chewy. What kind of things did you see that you liked about it?
Yeah, I mean, Nathan Kim's on there, Teja Types, Clavier, he's on there as well. It's just showing off some very well built, very nice boards. Those are boards. This a lot of times has a bad connotation, but those are very clickbaity boards. Those are boards that look awesome, and those are boards that you want to go, I want that. I'm going to look at my screen and I'm going to go, yep, that's the one. I'm going to do what I can to build that. And just because you don't get it doesn't mean you can't get something that's like that. So, I think he showed very good high quality videos of typing tests that shows off very clean looking boards, and that really does help the community because that's just spreading the gospel of mechanical keyboards. So sorry about your wallet, but Random Frank P has a very large community and very large outreach. I'm sure he's got, I don't personally know, like I have watched a few of his videos. I know he's really big on setups and stuff.
He's big on the aesthetic,
Yeah, aesthetic, and a lot of people in this community. He's got 1.2 million viewers or subs on YouTube. He's really big about aesthetics. A lot of people, if you just scroll through mechanical keyboards, most people are going to be very much like, I want my entire desk to look exactly like this. So yeah, it's like, he is giving that outreach of what this community needs to be pushed through. So
absolutely. And then just like the different Teja Types builds. Nathan's been building boards for people like Dizzy, G2 Pingu, and other streamers and pro players. And it's really cool to see those.
And K-pop stars.
And K-pop stars. But it's really cool to see these guys, even Tfue, getting into the mechanical keyboard community, getting into the high end of something that they're using every day for their craft. It's really, really cool to see those guys getting in and getting in with someone who is, one of the best people to get in with, and Nathan. So it's really cool to see that get shown off, and as obviously as he gets bigger, it just helps us all out.
Growing together.
Yeah. And then lower priced, high quality products. As we talked about it before, Tfue. Thing's awesome.
Like, even if you have a $900 keyboard, get a Tfue. Just get a Tfue. I don't care if you use your keyboard 5 minutes a day. Like a Tfue is just such a cool board. You can test switches if you're really into like, oh, I love, I bought that switch tester because some bearded dude with a ponytail. I never have a ponytail, I don't say, but some bearded dude yelled at me about getting a switch tester, so I got a switch tester, and I like all of them. Well, then get a Tfue and buy 70 of all switches you want to try, and then you can just swap them out. Get yourself a hotspot board and just swap them out because you get to try a new board. There are people, and I hope there are, but I'd like to assume there are people that have a Tfue, maybe a Tfue HHKB with a hot swap PCB and a set of keycaps that they love, and it matches everything great. And then once a week or once a month, they change out the switches. And aesthetically, you have the exact same board, but functionally, it's extremely different. It feels incredibly different. And I hope there are people like that. I recommend doing that. Save yourself some money.
Yeah.
Save yourself some money because you can get basically something that looks amazing to you. And then for about 40 to 50 bucks, you can, each switch, and that's on the high end, you can get, 6 different switches and have 6 different boards basically with the exact same aesthetic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
get a Tfue. Get a switch tester, get a Tfue.
There's a couple boards that are coming out soon. One just finished up its group buy in the Sirius board. It's, brand new material. It's an all palm board. Was not super expensive. I got in on it. I got 2 plates and 2 PCBs. And the win keyless version of it. I'm super stoked. So that'll be coming out here in the next couple months. And then the biggest one that I know Chewy and I are both stoked for is the Polaris. It's a board full everything that you need except for switches and caps for $285 shipped.
265 or 285.
Yeah, either 265 or 285 shipped. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Sub 300.
Yeah, under 300 shipped. Beautiful weight. We'll put a link in the description of, where you can find info about it. Just know if you are looking to buy this, if you've never been in, keyboards before, this is going to be a group buy. So you're going to get the board, you're going to purchase it, and then it's going to come like 2 to 3 months later.
Yeah.
If not longer than that. Sometimes up to a year. But
yeah. Maybe sometimes over a year. No. But the Polaris is also a gasket mount. So if you want something that's like super going to be quieter and feels better, we talked about the O-rings, gasket mount, great board. So, and last thing I will say, I have nothing against Tfue. I have nothing against the guy that built it. I don't really know anything about them. Like I said, I've known these people for less than 12 hours. But I know that there is a right way to build boards, and the right way was that the mark was missed for this one. And while it is awesome for someone like Tfue, who has great reach, who is a gamer, who has a large following, that is great for our community, that he's shouting out, hey, I custom mechanical keyboard. It's great that he's excited about it. But if you are maybe saying things or putting forward things that maybe that you're excited about, maybe you like spending a little bit more money on, trying to flex, I don't know, but that can kind of hurt this smaller community because it can deter people from going, I guess disclaimer, we want you to come over to the dark side of mechanical keyboards, but you don't have to spend $700. You do not have to spend $700.
We just want to make sure it's done right and it's done well, and you're getting your money's worth. That's the biggest thing for us is, we felt like $700 wasn't your money's worth in that board that you get by purchasing it from that maker. If you were to purchase it yourself and have someone else build it, you could get away at $400, $500, maybe. There's a lot of stuff in there that you don't necessarily need. There's some things that were done in the build that were just flat out incorrect and made the build not function the way it should, and that could damage the parts in the long run. So we just wanted to come here and kind of say, hey, this is our thoughts. This is what we would do differently. These are links to purchase everything that you would need to get the board. And hey, it's $352, not $700, nowhere near $700. So like I said, I've known Tfue. I had no idea who this guy that built it is. I don't know I know his relationship to Tfue is that he's like a mod or something in his channel. But I don't know anything about him. I don't watch Tfue. I'm not a sub or anything. I will say, Tfue, if you want a board that's $700, hit us up. Any other Fortnite players, pro people, anyone in general, you want a $700 board, hit us up on our Discord. We'll happily make you a $700 board and make sure that you get your money's worth out of it.
If you are a Fortnite player, you heard it here. Eric will build your board and I will straight up do whatever. We'll stream it and you just name the Fortnite dance and I'll pull it up on my phone and I'll do that for like 5 minutes and then I'll just switch dances every single time.
It's creating high quality content.
Just die of exhaustion after like 10 minutes.
But no, we're just out here trying to make sure that people that are coming into the community are getting what they need and getting a high quality version of what they expect and what they want out of the products that they're paying for. So
we want you to be woke.
Yeah. But I think that's going to be about it. I will say I will be streaming later tonight, actually. I'm actually going to be building a board that is actually pretty close to $700 in total in terms of group buy prices, but I'm going to be rebuilding my Orange 75. I figured out the issues with the PCB I was having. I'm going to be putting in some Xylent switches in it. I'm going to be capping it off. It's actually in the background right now, but capping it off with Hyperfuse Origins. So stop by our Twitch channel. It's twitch.tv/Mechs on deck. We're also going to be streaming tomorrow night. What time, Dave?
8 p.m. So we still have our July Keycap month, Keycap designer month going on this week. Dixie Mech is going to be joining us talking about GMK 8008. Fun news also because he's a vendor. We'll be able to talk a little bit more. We've got SA Bliss is out right now, so he's dealing with that as well. So we've got talking about keycaps coming up, talking about keycaps running right now, and anything else that we would like to ask him. We are going to be grinding him about kind of the ins and outs of design and running group buys and all of that. So be sure to check that out. 8 p.m. Central Time, twitch.tv/Mechs on deck. So that will be a good time. We had Nefluck on last week and had a really good time. Olivia before, so Dixie Mech. Yeah. Get excited.
We're excited. And obviously, don't forget to like the video. If you didn't like the video, you can dislike it as well. Doesn't hurt us. We're okay with it. So like or dislike the video.
We want to know.
Yeah. Remember to subscribe, comment if you got a question, join us on Discord, follow us on Twitch. We do all the things keyboards. We make them, we talk about them, we play with them. That sounded a little bit weird.
Yeah, no, totally. Look, we're playing. Yeah.
Don't drop it. That's heavy. Another thing is that 5 degree case is never going to weigh 7 pounds. Just want to throw that out there. That was one thing you did mention, that it weighed 6 to 7 pounds. That's not going to happen.
Nope.
Yeah, but no. Thank y'all. If you got to this point in the video, we appreciate it. We love y'all, and we'll see y'all again soon.
Buy a switch tester. Buy a Tfue.
Bye now.